Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's been a while. Hockey Outsiders, episode 17. We are live. It is April 11th, 2018. Here, as always, with my buddy Shane. Shane, how's it going?
Going great. Excited to have some playoff hockey coming.
Yeah, yeah, I guess we're both not as excited as we should be, I guess, considering both of our teams are out. But, I mean, aside from that,
Yeah,
not so bad, I
shows
guess.
we, shows we know nothing because both of us had Edmonton doing great this year and not so much.
I was talking about this the other day with a friend of mine because we were talking about this and he had mentioned I have some people here. For anybody that's watching that doesn't know, I know there's nobody watching, but if you ever do, you'll understand that we live in Taipei. We live in the middle of Asia, and we're still able to keep up on hockey events and stuff like that. We have a lot of fun doing it, and we still join hockey pools. We still follow our teams. We actually follow. I personally follow hockey regardless. I mean, the past 10 years being an Oiler fan has been tough, but at the same time, I've still followed hockey all the way through. I'm in a few hockey pools. I've always done these bracket challenges and so on and so forth. So being here, although it is a little bit harder, it's getting easier with each passing sort of season because with NHL Game Center and all this kind of stuff that's out there has made it a lot easier for us. So I actually had some people from Edmonton come and visit here. They're still here, actually. They'll be leaving this Friday. But yeah, he was actually picking my brain about it as well. He actually said, what do you think about Vegas? Are they for real? Are they for real?" And I had actually mentioned you in this, and I said, we run a podcast, and I said that we talked about this, and we went through and we had our picks for the expansion draft. And we did all that kind of stuff, and it was I said it was insane because we figured that we had certain players that we thought for sure were going to be taken by Vegas and how good of a team they were going to be. And we both sort of said that they were probably just going to be a regular expansion. I'm sure they'll win some games here or there, but for the most part, they're probably going to be losing more than they're winning, right?
Yeah,
Boy, oh boy, were we ever wrong, right? So I
not
remember.
only nobody. There's no pundit or anyone anywhere who predicted Vegas to be as good as they were.
It's really funny because when you see what they've done, I mean, it's insane. It really is like who would have guessed William Karlsson turns into a 40 goal scorer, right?
Yep.
Like how hard are Columbus killing themselves for that one right now? I mean, geez.
The funny thing is, none of us learned a lesson either because I've watched a bunch of stuff about who's going to win who predictions for the playoffs, and I've made my own predictions. I've talked to a lot of people about predictions. I know a lot of people picking the Kings to beat them in the first round. A
I have
lot of
them.
people.
I have them beating the. I have the Kings winning that series as well.
And I don't know anybody who's got them getting out of that West. So I mean, nobody's learned a lesson. They're the top seed in the Pacific. Like they
Yeah.
earned it this year, and they just kept proving it. But nobody's still picking them. Man, what a Cinderella story it would be if they won the cup, though. I think like you can be a fan of any team, but there's got to be a lot of people cheering for them right now. Like they're the Cinderella story of the whole season, and if they could cap it off with even if they just got to like if they got through the Kings and got through whoever else, the Ducks or whoever they face second round, that would be amazing. That would be a hell of a story.
So I guess you're taking the Ducks then in that one as well, hey? Oh, you're
Oh,
letting your
get
picks
into it.
go early, buddy.
We'll get into it.
Sure. Yeah. So anyway, I was talking to him about that. I thought it was really quite funny, and I said, and I remember even having this discussion when they were finished picking their guys. We had thought that they went easy on a few teams like Anaheim and such, and we figured that they were going to be even worse than what we kind of expected at the beginning. And I kind of just looked at him and I said, that kind of shows you how much we know, I guess, because we were completely wrong. Like I never in a million years expected that to happen. That's for sure. And sure enough, it has.
Like perfect example is Columbus, who had a bunch of defensemen exposed. Like I think Savard was exposed, a few other big defensemen exposed, and we were for sure they're going to take one of those top defensemen. Well, no, they took Carlson, and look at Carlson. Like they made the right call.
Clearly, yeah, because they, like I said, they've made us look a little bit silly on the some of the picks because they've, I mean, I mean, even if they lost in 4 straight to the Kings, that season they've had is a complete and utter success, no matter how you look at it.
Absolutely. And it's going to promote like the league doing this more. And like, I mean, I think there's already plans to do it more, but I think if they follow this routine, they get a GM early, they do a contraction draft like that or expansion draft like that. I think it's going to promote more new owners into the NHL because look, Vegas is immediately a profitable business, like immediately a profitable business. So
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, they're going to do well. I can't. I'm actually quite excited. I'm intrigued to see how that building looks for the first couple of games to see if it's going to be a madhouse in there of sorts.
rock, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start.
At the end.
Let's do. Is there anything you wanted to talk about, like just hockey wise? You know, sort of surprises and things that sort of happened this year, throughout the year. We'll just kind of touch on stuff like that at the beginning. I mean,
I think it's interesting to see like Colorado's back in, and you got the Knights, Flyers are becoming relevant again, and the Leafs and Devils. Like the Devils, man, there's another team that like I hate. You know how much I hate them. You know I don't like their roster management, but man, they proved me wrong. They're in there. And I was riding.
There's some talk about Taylor Hall getting votes for the Hart Trophy. What do you think about that?
I mean, he's one of the most valuable players to any team, but that's more based on how bad the other players are around him. Like, there's no other stars on that team.
Yeah.
So, I wouldn't give it to him personally. I prefer, Crosby still, or I still think McDavid is so valuable. Like, it's crazy how valuable McDavid is. Malkin, I think Malkin probably. But there's other guys too. I wouldn't give it to Hall. Hall is the comeback player of the year for sure. He's the back to what he used to be, what people predicted for him. Makes that trade look bad in hindsight, but whatever.
I'm still. There's a lot of people that are kind of saying those things, and the way Barzal sort of came through this year as well. Everyone's saying, "Oh, Chiarelli sucks and he made so many mistakes." I don't think so. I think that I still think that the deals that they made were the right ones. Because again, even if you had Taylor Hall and Matt Barzal, you still don't have any viable defensemen to keep the puck out of your own net anyway. So I don't. I still think that they were sort of necessary, and I think that they benefited both teams. And look, I want to say this again. I've said this before. I said this to you before, that Jersey's turnaround is not just because of Taylor Hall. Yes, he's a big part of that, but I think that he became a bigger part of it in the second half of the season. The first half of the season, most of their success was coming from guys that came out of nowhere and were playing big parts, like Jesper Bratt and
Butcher.
Will Butcher, and guys like, there was about 5 guys that they brought in that were making an actual impact on that roster. So for people to come and be like, "Oh, it was Taylor Hall," it wasn't. I don't think it was. I think it was, 4 or 5 guys that are playing quite well. It makes a huge difference in your lineup, right? I mean, if you have any team that brings in 5 guys that are taking spots away from fringe NHLers and playing the role, it makes a huge difference in any team.
Let's not forget they also got the first pick overall, and he was good, and he was really good the second half of the year. Hischier is a hell of a player, and he's down the middle. So I mean, that's a big change. That is a huge change. Adding a 19-year-old who can come in and immediately make an impact. They're going to be better next year too, because he's going to mature next year, and he's going to be an even better player. He's going to be on the same level as Hall. So they're going to have some of their other good picks they've gotten over the last couple of years are going to come into their lineup. They've got a pretty good system now. So they're on the upswing. I can't argue with it. They're definitely on the upswing. I hate them, but they're on the upswing.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I like seeing Colorado in here as well. You mentioned them. But do you think Colorado's just another one of those things where they seem to be doing sort of a roller coaster ride? They're up and they're in, and then they're garbage and they're out. What do you think of Colorado?
It's interesting to see McKinnon be as good as he was this year. There's two teams right there that McKinnon is also a guy you could put in the Hart conversation with how good he's been this year.
I would actually put him in the mix before Hall, because I think
me as well.
I think this is the strange thing for me. Colorado goes and they get rid of a guy like Matt Duchene, who I think is a great hockey player, and they turn it completely around after that. It's strange to me because you're losing one of your most talented players, and they didn't really get anything of significance in return, but that the whole face of the organization completely changed after that deal. And it makes you wonder if sort of some of the rumors that were out there were true about him sort of being a bit of a problem in the dressing room.
Yeah, and like he's been good in Ottawa as well, though. He's done well in Ottawa. So, like, I don't know what to think of that. I think McKinnon wasn't mature before as well. He wasn't quite ready for that leadership role, and he's now 23 or 24. Like, he's getting a little older.
Yeah.
They're another team that just doesn't have very good defense, and when I see teams like that, I just go, I don't trust the team with no good, like, very few good defenders. They've got Tyson Barrie, but not a lot else. So I still think that they're, they could be down again next year. There's a very good chance that they're right back down to where they were.
Yeah.
Just like the Devils. Those two teams, I wouldn't bank on being in the playoffs again next year at all. I don't know what I think of them, really.
Yeah, I feel fairly
the Devils, similar. I worry about.
I feel similar in those regards. I'm not sure if they're there yet. Any other sort of year-end trophies you want to touch on aside from the Hart?
Well, we just had in our Facebook group that we talk in, I called out a guy who doesn't believe in Winnipeg, who constantly craps on Winnipeg. He's a Vancouver fan. So am I. I got the jersey on, but I recognize skill when I see it. And I'm calling Hellebuyck for the Vezina, I think. I think he, for me, is the Vezina winner. He played more games than anybody, I think. He solid all year long, well over 925 or 920 save percentage all year long. Most wins in the NHL. There's other goalies that were really good this year, but I don't think any were as consistent as Hellebuyck all the way through the year. And listen, goaltending is, you only go as far as your team is in front of you, and he's got a hell of a team in front of him. I think the Jets are awesome. But he was so solid this year. If you had him in fantasy, you probably did well in your league because you probably got him late. And he probably just carried you all the way through. And he's done the same for Winnipeg. So I think Vezina, for me, is pretty much wrapped up, and I think it's him. I bet the guy that he doesn't hate on him. But
it's down to what, 4 guys, right? You've got Rinne, Vasilevsky, and Hellebuyck.
Yeah.
For that on. And I kind of have to agree with, although Rinne has had a pretty strong year.
One that I'm worried.
But yeah, I mean, if you kind of look at the turnaround seasons that the teams had, you definitely got to kind of give it to Winnipeg, and they're looking like a team that could go quite far. And they're looking like a team that's going to give Nashville a real run for their money to make it to the finals.
Okay, I think it's time to get into it because we're getting on the topics that I like. Okay, Let's go. Let's start in the Central. Start with the Predators and the Avalanche.
Sure. I'll let you go first. You can take the helm on this one.
Okay. For me, this is there's 2 series that I think are the safest to make your bets on, and this is number 2 for me. I think Predators are going to walk all over them. I like that Colorado made this big push, but Varlamov is not fully healthy, I don't think.
Well, I don't even think he's starting, I don't think.
I don't even think he is either. And I mean, Bernier's been okay at times this year. He's been usable at times this year, but they're just not. Nashville is Nashville, and they're just so deep and so fast and getting faster. Like, they've got a new guy like Fiala, who's this speedster who's got 30 goals or whatever this year.
I think bringing in Mike Fisher for them might be huge as well. That veteran presence on the 4th line, the guy is a face-off winning machine. That could be huge for them.
I was surprised he retired at the end of last year, but I guess, you know what? He just planned it. He knew he just wanted a break, but he probably knew he would come back. And he was just, look, I just want to, I'm 35 or whatever he is, just want a break. But he was totally a good hockey player last year.
Yep.
Like he was a valuable hockey player last year.
Yeah,
Anyway,
he's a
yeah,
nice,
I agree.
nice addition to the lineup there late in the year, and I think that's going to help. Again, him being a little more fresh is going to be really helpful for them as well. I
Yeah.
agree with you. I think this one is probably the safest of them. I think Nashville in 4 or 5 games. I don't see this going anywhere, getting in any sort of troublesome
Give it
areas.
also 6 is what I'll say. I'll say 6, but I'm just not going any sweeps this year. I went sweeps last year and I was wrong about most. So
Yeah, no, I'm doing 4 or 5 for Nashville. I think Colorado will maybe squeak out one, but Nashville's just too strong as far as I'm concerned as well. Um,
they're just a team that was great last year, and I think they got better. So they've also got maturity probably from going on the big run last year.
Well, they
So
also got a little bit younger, a little bit faster as well, which always helps, right? I mean, yeah, they're definitely looking, like they're. I think they're the team out of if you take 2 teams per conference is kind of how it works. There is one thing that
yeah,
I'm not a big fan of is that they're not doing the playoff reseeding. I think this really takes away from uh, this kind of the spirit of the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think because I mean you're basically going to have if things go according to plan, have the 2 best teams facing off in one of the division finals. You know what I mean? It just in the second round type thing, and it's not. I don't like it. I don't like the way that that's set up because potentially
yeah,
you could have Tampa Boston, which were 1-2, playing in the second round, which are the 1-2 seeds. You could have Nashville and Winnipeg, which are the 1-2 seeds, playing in the next round. That takes away from the conference finals so much because that's the what should happen in the conference finals, but it's happening in the second round. So you could actually
yeah.
have an easier route in the conference finals than you do in the second round.
I feel like they're going to fix it. I feel like they know that it's a problem and that they have to fix it
It,
because you're right. It should be not this way for
well,
sure.
it could really
Then,
benefit a team like Anaheim, San Jose, Vegas, or LA because their travel schedule in that region is next to nothing.
yeah,
So if you
yeah,
think
good
about the travel
call.
schedule that's going on in the second bracket of that in the playoffs, that's huge. Like if you have any of those 4 teams come out of, they're going to be fairly fresh. They haven't traveled hardly anything at all.
Yeah,
Where you've got Nashville, who's flying into Colorado, flying back to Nashville to Colorado, and then either Winnipeg or Minnesota. That's quite a distance. I mean, that's quite a distance when
never
you've got.
even equated the flight time with the nights. That might be part of the reason they do so well is that they are flying. They're a hub. Like Vegas is a hub. There's a reason everybody flies into Vegas.
Yeah,
So maybe it's real easy to travel in and out of, and that's one of the reasons they're fresh more. Anyway, that's just a side thought.
could be. Yeah. So we both agree having Nashville kind of trouncing Colorado. Like I said, I don't think it goes 6. 6 is a little bit worrisome if I'm Nashville. I think that they take care of
Yeah,
business in 4 or 5. I don't think it. I think they come to work and they they get it just done straight away. Let's go
okay,
to.
so let's jump.
Do you want to stay in
Jets
one
in the
conference or do you
Wild.
want to jump conferences?
Let's do Central. Let's finish off the Central. Let's get the Jets in the Wild.
Okay, I think this is a really tough one because I like the way that the Minnesota Wild have been playing, but having Ryan Suter go out like he went out gonna be really tough for them
Yeah,
to overcome that. And Winnipeg is, I think, one of the most stacked teams offensively in the entire league. So having them lose their best defenseman for the playoffs, it's a real tough one to overcome, and I just don't see them doing it.
yeah, I agree. This is for me. I think this is actually pretty easy. I think without Ryan Sutter, it's like it's over
Yeah.
for Minnesota. He's so important to them, to what they do. Um, Also, Spurgeon's not fully healthy. I don't even know if he's going to be playing at the beginning of the. He might come back. They're saying, but it's like he's rushing back, and he's probably not even close to 100%. So they're just hurting. So I think it's quick and easy actually for
I
Winnipeg,
think
which is
Winnipeg will grind out a couple of games from Winnipeg. It's going to be a rough series. Winnipeg has got the tools. I mean, I think they literally have everything. They've got speed, they've got size, they've got power, they've got youth, they've got everything that you could possibly want in a team moving forward.
Yep. If I were to build a team, and I get a lot of people are naysaying because of the lack of experience. Like it's been forever since they've been there. None of these players have been there before.
Well,
so
the cup, yeah. So I mean, that's valuable experience having that in there alone.
Yeah, that's true. So I mean, they've got some guys. They just don't have like Line A has never been there before.
Well, Ehlers, Line A,
super vital.
A lot of the guys haven't really been there, but yeah, I don't see that being much of an issue when you're just that good.
I agree, and part of the reason I like them this year is because they have Minnesota at the beginning, and Minnesota's so hurting that I think that's what they need. Nice, easy series, get them going, and then I don't know if there's any stopping them.
I think the eventual winner out of Nashville, Winnipeg goes to the Stanley Cup. I don't think any of the teams coming out of the bottom half of that bracket have any sort of a chance against those teams. And I'm not taking anything away from any of those teams that are down there. They just don't have the firepower, offensively or defensively, to keep up with those two teams. I don't think.
You're totally right as well. If what we predict is right, Winnipeg and Nashville face off next round, I mean that's basically another Stanley Cup. Like, those are two of the best teams in the NHL for sure. It might be the two best teams in the NHL. That's debatable, but we'll get to some of the other teams too.
Yeah, sure. So let's go down to the bottom part and just do Vegas and LA.
Yep.
I think go first on this one.
I'll go first. I think this might be the most interesting first round series, like the closest, toughest to predict. LA's got the pedigree. LA's won a bunch of cups more recently. Knights are a bunch of young guys that are chomping at the bit to show what they can do, like they have all year, prove that they're not a fluke. It's a really tough series to pick for me. I do like LA this year. They've been defensively amazing. I think they're the best defensive team in the NHL. They were about a month ago. I'm not sure about it anymore. They don't allow goals. They still don't score goals at a high rate, but Kopitar is back to what Kopitar used to be. Dustin Brown is a legitimate hockey player again, like a really good hockey player again suddenly. Drew Doughty, I always love. Might be my favorite Canadian defenseman of all time. But the Knights, I'm going to go with them. I'm going to go with these guys that have been doing it all year, and I'm not going to take the Kings team that has the pedigree. I'm going to go with the young guys, and I feel like I've made the mistake all year of not trusting the Knights, and it took me way too long in like fantasy to buy in on some of their players that were doing well. And if you had bought in on them, you would have had a ton of points. So I'm not going to do it again in the playoffs, and I'm picking them in the first round. But I think it's going to be a very close series and not easy.
This is where I disagree. I think the LA Kings are the worst possible matchup for the Vegas Knights. I think they would have preferred Anaheim or San Jose or anybody but the Kings, because I think the Kings are exactly the team that ends the Cinderella story. They're, like you said, they've got the pedigree, but they've been there before. They know what it takes, and they can just stifle a team. I also don't like the fact that Vegas is sort of stumbling into the playoffs. They got spanked 7-1 by Calgary. That is a little bit sort of off-putting for me, trying to, in taking them in any sort of a league like that. I don't like the fact that they're kind of stumbling in. Where LA, they're just starting to get healthy. Jeff Carter's been back here now for a month and a bit. They're starting to get all their guys sort of back and in rhythm. I think that they're going to beat Vegas. I think Vegas might win 1 or 2, but I'm saying 6, the Kings in 6 on this one.
I'm going to say Knights in 7.
All right.
That'll be
this series for me, I think, was the hardest for me to pick. Anaheim, San Jose. These are two teams that have kind of been going at it on and off for the past 5 or 6 years, and it's I like the Ducks. there's a lot of San Jose Sharks that I like as well. I would love to see Joe Thornton win a Stanley Cup. I don't think that they have. I think that they missed their chance a couple of years ago when they went to the finals. But this year's even tougher. Anaheim's starting to decline, and you can really see it in the guys that are leading. Corey Perry's just not the Corey Perry he used to be. Getzlaf still Getzlaf, but he's just a little bit older, slower version of Getzlaf. And the guys that were supposed to kind of take this team haven't really stepped up enough for me. Like guys like Ricard Raquel and Silverberg and all these guys, they didn't really have strong seasons this year in regards to that. So I'm a little bit worried about Anaheim getting through, although they are very similar to the Kings the way that they're built. They are built to grind out games and win games. But San Jose's been there too, and I think I like San Jose's youth a little bit better here with guys like Couture and Hurdle and those guys kind of moving forward. I think they've got a better mix. This one is the toughest series for me, and it's a coin toss. And I am going to go with the Sharks in 7.
Okay, well, I agree. It's the hardest one. It's like I couldn't even decide we were doing our fantasy draft like hours ago, and I still at the last minute was
completely away.
I was like, do I take a player on them? I was willing to take one player on the Ducks because I predict the Ducks, I think, to go through, but I didn't know. Thornton's hurt. He might come back for the second game, he's saying, or maybe in like a couple games in. He might even get back for the first game, but he's not healthy. I don't know. The Sharks don't have a defensive presence I like. Neither do the Ducks, really, though. And Gibson's just been so good. The only thing, I think Gibson is the thing that swayed me, but the issue is Gibson's been hurt. But I'm thinking that they've been sitting him out because they want him to be fully healthy for these first games. But he's another guy who, if he played every game this year, if he didn't miss any games, he would be right in the conversation for Vezina. He's been amazing this year. So
I will say this when it comes to goaltending, I do think that Anaheim's goaltending situation is better. I like having Ryan Miller there as sort of a safety net if Gibson does falter, where San Jose doesn't really have that. That's the one area where I do give Anaheim, but I like I said before, I think I give the defensive edge to San Jose. I mean, you can't. I kind of look at teams and things like that in different ways. Usually, you kind of go with the one that has the best player, and I think Brent Burns is the best defenseman in the series. And forward wise, you've got to kind of again give it to San Jose with Couture and Pavelski and those kind of guys. So, but again, that one could go either way.
I think it will go either way. I'm going to go with the Ducks, it's going to be another close one. But I think 6 games, I'm going with the Ducks, and I think Gibson stands on his head a bit and shows he's been Vezina worthy all year.
Fair enough. All right, so now we're going to head over to the Eastern Conference. This one here was a little bit easier. There was only one series that I kind of stayed away from in this one.
I guess it.
But I think I'm gonna differ on you on a few different things here. So let's just start at the top. We'll do Tampa Bay, Jersey. I'll let you take the lead on this one.
So this is my biggest lock of the first round. For me, Tampa Bay is going to destroy the Devils, and I don't even think it's going to be close. I think Tampa Bay are a juggernaut, much like I think the Jets are a juggernaut. I think their depth in offense is just crazy. And Vasilevsky's been so good this year. They were my first pick in our fantasy pool for goalies was the Tampa Bay tandem. So I really believe that I think they've been resting guys. I think they've got young guys going at the right time. I think they made a crazy trade that looked crazy on paper. Nemeshnikov for TJ Miller or JT Miller, sorry.
JT Miller and McDonough.
He's a comedian.
Yeah.
But JT Miller, and JT Miller has been amazing. It looks like actually they ripped them off. They ripped off New York, and they actually might have gotten the better player. But, I mean, that system's just so good.
They got McDonough out of that as well. They got McDonough and JT Miller.
Yeah. So, I mean, They're so stacked. I love them, and they're. I think that's my one sweep for the first round. Is I think they just charge right through the Devils. The Devils don't even have. They have Kincaid in nets. Kincaid's been good. Kincaid I used in fantasy at the end of the year. He was actually solid at the end of the year. But
What has happened to Schneider? I mean, that is
Schneider,
crazy. He was a goalie that we talked about being one of those guys that wins you games, and he has completely just fallen off the rails.
he's got injuries. I think it's all injury related. I think he's not himself. So I think they're almost ready to move on as well. I bet he's not there next year.
Wow.
We'll see. He's valuable. Some take a risk. Yeah. He's one of the few goalies. There's not a lot of goalies out there anymore that people would trade for. He's one that I think a team that just has nothing in nets, that has nothing, like Avalanche. Varlamov, who's been hurt and not good all year. But you throw Schneider on that team, you never know. Anyway, I have a feeling he's gone after this year.
Well, that could be pretty big there. I think that's crazy. I think he's.
I don't know if he's still got it though.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was like, again, falling off the map that hard is pretty crazy when you think about it. I mean, I haven't seen that happen in a goalie for quite some time, so it's a bit weird.
Yeah. So who do you got?
I'm the same with you. I think Tampa Bay steamrolls New Jersey. I don't think this is even close.
Yeah.
Again, too much depth. 4 unbelievable lines that they're going to be rolling over in Tampa Bay. Adding McDonough is huge. They always say defense wins the championships, right? So
yeah,
adding McDonough to that stable of defensemen is pretty insane.
Hedman, they're a good shot.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've got Hedman, they've got Strawman, they've got such a great defense there already, and then bringing in a guy like that is just, like I said, I think that's just craziness. So, I don't see this one being too close.
Okay, we can move on. I think that one's an easy one.
Yeah.
How about the Bruins in the league?
All right. This is one that I'm going to, how I am. My feeling towards the Leafs are I am not a big fan.
Say it.
But I think they have an actual shot of winning this series. I'm not sold on Boston. I love Boston. I'm a big fan of Zdeno Chara, always have been. Tons of respect for that guy. As much as everybody hates Todd Marchand, he's that guy that you hate playing against, but you love having him on your team. And I'll take a team full of those kind of players every time. Every single time I build a team, I want guys like that on my team every time. You know that I've said that many times, but I'm still not convinced. I'm not convinced that they have the depth to make it work. I mean, it might not be this round against Toronto that they lose to, but they're definitely not going to be much of a match for Tampa in the next if they do make it through.
Okay, so you got how many games do you think?
I think it goes to 7, and I think this one is as much of a coin flip for me as Anaheim San Jose. I hope Boston wins, but I could see it going either which way.
You have to say that, please.
If Toronto wins and Winnipeg goes as far as I'm thinking they're going, it is an absolute fucking nightmare for me. It really is, because all the people that I talk to are either Leaf fans or they're Leaf and Jet fans, which should be taboo, but it's not.
Okay, we do differ. I've got Boston. I'm not sold on the Leafs defense. I like how the step forward that Riley made, and I like the step forward that Gardner's made, but I'm not sure they're quite ready for the prime time yet. The prime time.
Yeah.
Bergeron is maybe one of the best playoff performers in history. He's one of those guys who just dives on every puck, and I love Bergeron. Bergeron is my favorite hockey player.
He's another one. I didn't mention him, but yeah, he's another guy that he's sort of underrated. I think he's one of the more underrated players in the league. He doesn't get much respect. He's always known as a defensive guy, but he puts up his points too, and he definitely plays the game the right way.
Yeah, and he was hurt a little bit, but he's healthy now. I think they're all healthy. Marchand was by pace, I think would have been the top scorer in the NHL this year. He was, if he played every game, he and McDavid would have been very close for the top scorer in the NHL. So he had 85 points in 68 games. So that's a superstar. Like that's a crazy player. And I think their depth is actually not as bad as you think. I like Krejci is playing better right now. Backes is playing better right now. They're guys who are never healthy, but I think they're starting to get healthy right now. And I think Boston really played it that way. I think they've rested guys at the right time, and I think they've been playing them come into the playoffs and letting them get heated up. I don't mind their goaltending. What's his name?
Raskin and Anderson, right? I mean, Anderson's had a hell of a season. I'll give them credit.
Anderson's been great.
And I said that when that happened, when Anaheim traded him to Toronto, I said that Toronto got themselves a good deal on that one. Anderson's played
a good deal, yeah. I think the Bruins, we're not too far away from years where these same players like Bergeron was getting to the finals and doing very well. So I think his leadership, I just think he's amazing, and I think that he gets them going. And I think that they're going to run through them. I think that actually the Leafs have no chance here. I think it's going to be a destruction by the Bruins.
I completely stayed away from this series because, I mean, again, you do the same thing, right? You kind of go through and you, like I said to you before, you choose who's got the best player. And I love Marchand, and I think that he is one of the best players in that series. But I still think Austin Matthews is that guy. When you kind of look at that series, he's the best player coming out of that series. And that's why it's hard for me to go against Toronto there.
Yeah, I think that's debatable. I think Marchand, I mean, they're very close, but I think Marchand on paper is better. But I think definitely it's not even going to be comparable in a couple of years. I think that Matthews is the better talent overall. I don't know, though. Marchand just keeps proving me wrong. I didn't think he was going to be this good of a player.
He's done the same thing for me, too. I remember a couple of years ago, I had talked about this in a fantasy league that we were in, and the consensus was someone's going to overpay for Marchand the next year, boy, because he had a hell of a year 2 years ago. Someone's going to overpay for him and take him way early. Stupid idiots. And he's completely been worth the early picks every year he's been in. So, I mean,
I have him. I traded for him in our league just as a throw in on a trade with the guy, which is funny because he was. I wasn't a throw in. I forget how I got him, but he's a third round keeper, and that was a secret little move I was making there where I don't have enough. I can't keep a lot of guys at the bottom of my draft. I'm having trouble. Don't have enough picks down there, so keeping him in the third round, that's juicy. He's worth a third round pick. That's for sure.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. That's for sure. Yeah.
Anyway.
So you're taking. I'm hoping you're right. I hope Boston does steamroll them because that just makes me happy every time the Leafs get steamrolled, and then we don't have to. I'll tell you something. I about two and a half weeks ago, TSN of all places, that station sometimes just boggles my brain. They actually posted up. The Leafs, the only Canadian team to make the playoffs. Are they? Is Canada going to get behind them? I wrote on there, I'm like, are you serious? Winnipeg is a city in Canada that clinched before the Leafs did. Are you really that blinded by it? It was ridiculous to me. And I actually went onto their site and I called them out on it. I haven't let it go either because one of the guys who posted anything, it's called the Toronto Sports Network. I'm like, no, man, it's not called the Toronto Sports Network. It's called the Sports Network. You idiot! It just, it was pretty crazy how they sort of missed on that one. But yeah, I do hope that Boston does win it. For all of those Leaf fans out there, I'm really sorry. I'm starting to gain some respect for them, but eat a bag of dicks.
That's funny. For me, that all bleeped out. It's like you bleeped it. It was just natural lag.
Can't do it. All right, okay, so let's move on to Washington, Columbus. I'll let you take this one.
This one for me was very tough. Very, very tough. I like a lot of the things the Blue Jackets have done this year. they're like a solid team. They're healthy. Their defense is so deep, so deep. They're like when you look at a team that has a stacked up defense, they're a team like they have enough that they can trade away guys pretty easily. Um, and the Capitals don't. You know, they have Carlson, who's at the top of the league, very top of the league. But they have like Orlov and a few other guys, Niskanen, but they're not big name defenders. Um, Holtby has not been himself this year at all.
He's not even getting the start in game one. They've announced Philip Grubauer starting game one.
I added Grubauer a month ago in our league, man. It might look like he might be their goalie now. Like he's just been way better this year, and that's too good of a team to be playing a bad Holtby. Like there's no reason it's really him. Like they're good when Grubauer plays, and they're not good when Holtby plays. So they had to do it. I kind of agree with the move by them, and it sucks. Holtby was like Canada goalie kind of goalie. And he's fallen right off. And if Grubauer comes into this playoffs and shuts people out, it's game over. Like it's going to be like a Murray in Pittsburgh situation where Murray just shut everybody out a couple of years ago, and it just became his team, and it was like the tide just swung.
Makes it so here's my next pick. Year if that does happen, hey.
My pick. I'll be more concise. I'm taking. Oh, this is so hard. I'm taking Washington. I like the Blue Jackets, and I do like what they're doing, and it's tough for me. I actually, in our league, I took the Blue Jackets as one of my goalie teams later, because I do think they have a good chance. If anybody's got a chance in those wild card positions, it's them. They're really good on paper. They're not that deep with forwards, but their defensive strength is really good, and Bobrovsky is Bobrovsky. So, I mean, they've got a shot. But I'm going to say 6 games Capitals.
All right. I differ with you on this one as well, as I figured I would. I'm going the same route on this one. I think Alexander Ovechkin is the best player in this in the out of the two teams by far. He's the best player in the series. But I think a very second right behind him, and I think the guy who's sort of taken the baton of the best goalie in the league this year is Sergei Bobrovsky. Not this year. I think Hellebuyck and Rinne are the two for the Vezina, but I think Sergei Bobrovsky at the beginning, all the way through probably 3/4 of this year was the best goalie, hands down in the league. And I think that having that defense and that goalie against a little bit better of an offense coming out of Washington, I think Washington can't get through that. I think that that's going to just stymie them. It's going to be tough for them to be generating any sort of offense. And I think that this team also announcing that Grubauer is going to be starting could be going in fragile as well. Because, I mean, that's a big thing. Holtby was their man for the last 2 seasons, right? Having him unhappy could have some effect on that dressing room. And I think this is the year that Washington sort of takes the nosedive a little bit. I think that they've got to sort of retool and start to make some moves and some changes and start to revamp that team a little bit. And I think this year Columbus wins that series. And I'm taking Columbus in 6.
I think I hear what you're saying. I think that firepower at the top with Ovechkin. I mean, the other thing that we're not even talking about, the elephant in the room here, is Washington just choke every year. So, I mean, there's that as well, where they're just a team who never gets it done. So, like, maybe they'll do it this year. Maybe they'll at least get through the Blue Jackets. I feel risky. I used to pick them for the Cup, and now I picked them 2 years in a row for the Cup, and now
I did the same thing. And like he's another player that I would really like to see win a Stanley Cup. I would love to see Alex Ovechkin because I think that he sort of gets disregarded as one of the better players of this generation because he hasn't done what Crosby's done. But he doesn't have a Malkin on his team that he's able to rely on for that secondary scoring. Yeah, he's got Backstrom, but that's not even a fair comparison as far as I'm concerned. So, if there's one player that I would really love to see win a Stanley Cup, it is Ovechkin. But I just don't. I have no faith in that team at all after the last 2 years, and I think that they just sort of fold when the pressure gets too tough for them. And I think that Columbus learned last year. They lost last year to Pittsburgh in the first round, and I thought that they would have given Pittsburgh more of a run. But I think they're going to learn. Dubinsky is a tough guy to play against when he's on his game, and I think that Backstrom's going to have him in his back pocket for most of the series. And I think Columbus has the horses on the back end to pull it off.
We'll see. This is going to be this is probably in the first round. I think this is the most fun series to me. This is the one that would be fun to watch.
Yeah.
Lots of firepower. Blue Jackets are going to play hard. They always do. They're going to crash. Lots of hits, lots of action. Ovechkin being Ovechkin. I mean, it'll be fun to watch.
Should be a good one. So, barring no injuries, I think Columbus wins this series in 6.
Yeah, I hope so, because they put them in the pool. So.
Yeah. Hey, Pittsburgh and Philly. I guess I'm starting on this one, and I'm pretty sure you're going to be a little bit shocked by this. I got Philly coming out of this series. Yeah, it's a ballsy pick, but I've been watching quite a bit of Philly this year, and I'm going to tell you something. I think that they are a team that is a lot deeper than a lot of people give them credit for. They've got a solid team right through their roster. I mean, a Provorov is an unbelievably good defenseman. I think that he's kind of flown under the radar a bit, but he is really, really good. Gothler has come back and shown that he's back into form. They've got the shutdown guy in Gudas, who's going to be all over Crosby the entire series. Yeah, I know they still got Malkin, who's insanely good as well. But this it's not even the defensive part of the Philadelphia Flyers that I like moving forward in the series. I think that their offense is going to give the Pittsburgh defense nightmares. I think it's going to be really tough for Pittsburgh's defense to keep up with these guys. Giroux's back to where he should be, I think, where he was a couple of years back. Adding guys like Konechny, having Simmons out there. Voracek's had a heck of a season. Who's the other
Couturier?
Couturier's a handful to in front of the net. I think the Philadelphia Flyers have the tools to beat the Pittsburgh Penguins. Crosby has said before that he hates playing against Claude Giroux because they go at each other, and it's going to be like that for Crosby in this first round again. And I think Pittsburgh's a bit tired, back-to-back championships, tons of respect for them. I hate it when people say they hate Crosby. I love the guy. He's the kind of he's awesome. He's still the best player in the league as far as I'm concerned. And then you've got Malkin, you've got Kessel, but that's really it. I mean, you can throw Hornqvist in there too, but I think Philly's got more guns up front to get it done this year.
Okay. It's tough. I do see what you're saying. My issue with the Flyers is their goaltending. Is Brian Elliott going to be anything, or like he's just coming back from injury?
I think Mrazek takes that team next year. I think Peter Mrazek, if that's Mrazek's team going forward.
I thought so, but I don't think so anymore. He was good at the very beginning when he came in, but he's been Peter Mrazek. He's been one game amazing, one game horrible. One game amazing, one game horrible for about a week and a half now. I don't think they're even going to play him. I don't think he plays a game in this playoffs. I think it's going to be Elliott. They're just going to ride Elliott the whole way through. And I think having no solidity in goal, just like they always don't have solidity in goal. They will in the future. Flyers are a team that in the future are going to have some good goaltenders because Carter Hart, who's in their system and is the best prospect goalie in the NHL right now. Just like Vasilevsky was 3 years ago. You go back 3 years ago, Vasilevsky was the very top prospect in all of the NHL for goaltenders. Now it's maybe Carter Hart. Thatcher Demko in Vancouver is pretty good. But I think in the future they're going to be fine in net. I just don't think they're fine now. And I think that the Penguins are tired. I do see that. Like I do worry a bit about the Penguins this year. They're not their old selves. But Malkin is the best he's been. This is the best Malkin we've seen coming to the playoffs. Maybe not his best ever season, but at this age, for him to have as good of a year as he did is amazing. I think they've got a few of their younger guys going right at the right time. I think Connor Sheary is kind of getting going again. And Gensel kind of got it going a little bit. And if those guys can get it going, all they need is a little bit of secondary scoring on that team, because the main guys are going to score. And I think Letang's going to be good. I think they're going to get through the Flyers. I don't think that the goaltending with the Flyers is going to hold up.
I'm not sure the goaltending in Pittsburgh is doing that much better at this point in time.
True, you got a good point there, which makes me sad because I'm an owner of Murray in many leagues. I bought into Murray real early, so I got him nice and cheap in a lot of leagues, and I was sitting pretty thinking I have this amazing goalie forever. But it's looking like he might even – who knows what's going to happen next year. But if he doesn't perform in the playoffs here, I'm scared. He might be done.
Yeah, it could be interesting. I think everyone. I don't think anybody. This is what happened in my other draft that I finished up. I ended up with Winnipeg goaltenders. Because I didn't get Winnipeg in ours. I got Pittsburgh and LA in ours. I ended up with Winnipeg goaltenders at the beginning, and I knew that I was going to be able to get Philly goaltenders right till the end. And I didn't even pick a secondary goalie team. I stuck with Winnipeg goaltenders. And I left it till the very end, and I ended up getting the Philly goaltenders, and that's kind of how I planned it. My team is completely stacked. I got Winnipeg, Tampa players. Pretty much all 10 of my guys are 5 Winnipeg, 5 Tampa.
That's me in our league. That's what I did in our league.
Yeah, so it works out really, really well. In our league, I got all Nashville players. I got 7 or 8 Nashville guys straight through, which is amazing to me. I didn't think I'd be able to stack that many Nashville guys on that one. So. I've got.
I think
if it goes Nashville Tampa in the finals, I'm the happiest guy. I could win both of those pools, so I'm pretty happy. But I mean, I like I said, I think Winnipeg, Nashville, Tampa are the 3 best teams coming out.
I think instead of going into the next round, I mean, we've done the first round. I don't think we should go too deep. I think we should pick our Stanley Cup final 2 teams maybe right now. Just so that we've got it in
let's just do it round per round. We can go with who our favorites are that we think will make the final. But let's just do round by round. So we'll finish off. Just do the first round here this time around, and then we'll meet again in a couple of weeks and do the second round.
Exactly. I don't think we go. I think last year we did everything in one night, and I think that's overdoing it. And we got everything wrong last year, so we looked like idiots, and we were like saying whoever. I don't know who we picked last year, but
really common thing. I'm always kind of looking like an idiot at some point. So I mean, it's not so bad for me, but I'm hoping this year it works out a little bit better. I have gone a little bit off the grid. I know everyone's taken Pittsburgh. Nobody's given Philly a real shot at it. Everybody's kind of taking Washington as well.
You can tell. The interesting thing is the way we'll get into our fantasy stuff briefly here in a second. But it was interesting to see who people were picking. And the teams that I was surprised that I was seeing a lot of players going from were Flyers had a bunch of players taken, and the Bruins. People are stacking up on the Bruins a lot.
I did notice that in both of the pools I was in, the Bruins were getting stacked up on both of them, which, again, I stayed completely away from because I'm just not really sold on them.
So let's so we'll keep it there. Do you want to say our Stanley Cup winner, or do you want to just hold it back?
We can do the ones that we think are our favorites going, because I mean there's going to be injuries and all that kind of stuff that go through. So let's just do our favorite for now.
For the final.
Yeah, or we can do the who we think are going to be the 2 finalists, I guess, if you want.
I'm saying Lightning, and I'm saying Winnipeg are my 2 finalists.
Yeah, I've leaked mine as well. I mean, I think Tampa Bay is the best, is the creme de la creme of the East, but I think the West it comes down to 2. I think it's either whoever comes out of Winnipeg, Nashville. I agree with that. I don't think any of those. I don't think any other team in the bottom half of that has any. Doesn't have the guns to keep up with those 2 teams, and it's a shame that if that happens in the second round, because I think that is conference final material, and that's going to be a hell of a series. Yeah,
it's going to be fun to watch.
I think
I'm still having
Tampa has would be in the conference finals as well. Whoever comes out of Washington, Columbus, Pittsburgh, or Philly. like I said, I'm not all that convinced with Boston, and I don't think Toronto has. I don't think either of those two teams can match up to Tampa.
Who do you have winning it?
Uh, Tampa.
I'm going to go Winnipeg.
Yeah, I think Tampa's just a bit too strong. They're a bit too deep. When you kind of look, when you break it down to what they have, I think they just got too much skill. They're tough for any team.
I predicted Winnipeg second week of the year, I think, or third week of the year, all the way. As I've said Winnipeg, and I was going to go against it. Tampa Bay. Trust me, I almost swayed and picked Tampa Bay in the last couple of days because I love Tampa Bay. They're so perfect.
It's a tough one because, like I said, I'm not sure if Winnipeg has the horses yet to get through Nashville. I think that they're going to have a couple of tough choices coming up this offseason, but I think that next year, with Line A, I think that they get to the second round. I think that they take Nashville to 7 games. And I think that experience kind of pushes them over the edge.
Yeah, very interesting. I think I think they've got the horses. I think they've got the horses now. The fact that Kyle Connor is a scorer and Scheifele is healthy now and amazing, and Ehlers is a 30-goal scorer, almost 29. So they've got so many goal scorers. It's just crazy. And Line A, 44 goals. Like, they're just so stacked. And Bufflin, like, I do like Bufflin as well.
I've always been a huge fan of Bufflin. I like Bufflin as well. I do like what they have, but I think Nashville. I just think Nashville's got Yossi's unreal.
Yeah, and Subban.
I think that's what's going to kind of push him over is just that back end. I mean, Josi, Subban, like even guys like Ellis and those guys. I think they're just too deep on defense. Winnipeg is deep on defense as well, but I don't think that their young forwards are going to be able to take that defense. And I think it's going to frustrate.
Yeah, I hear. Okay, so instead of going into more rounds, and so we picked our picks.
Yeah.
How about you give a little roundup of? We just did these playoff pools. I think a lot of people do these kind of simple playoff pools coming into this time of year. It's fun, and I'm glad I have a lot of fun doing them. It's just a nice little thing going into the playoffs.
Let's start with this question.
Maybe
let's jump right into picks and players. Let's talk about this for a bit because this was a big discussion for us at the beginning. Goalies or no goalies in a playoff pool? Because I know and I've been in both of these. I prefer having goalies in a pool just because I don't like taking out that aspect of it for any sort of a hockey pool type thing. But let's kind of see why you think it's better not to have goalies, and I'll give my thoughts on why I like having goalies.
Well, I'll say the way we're doing our goalies is the way I would prefer it. If you're going to do goalies, you don't just take like Vasilevsky. You take Tampa Bay goalies, all of the goalies that are on Tampa Bay, in case the first day of the playoffs, Vasilevsky goes down with an injury and he's just done. And then you just lose all those points and it's useless. I mean, you can't do that with regular players, but you can do that with a goalie. You can have both goalies. You just basically have the entire team stats goalies,
right?
Which is kind of like you're picking a team as well, I like that as well.
Yeah.
So I do like the way we're doing it. If you're going to do it, I think you should do it that way.
Do you like having 2 goalies or 1 goalie team set? Because we've got 8 guys in our pool, so it works out that we can have 2 teams.
It depends how you give points. I mean, I struggled with it this year, whether I was even going to go all in on goalies. Like I got first pick, and I had, of course, a choice. Do I take the top team right away, or do I take the top player, I think, from that team right away? I went with the goalies, but the way we've done our goalie stats, it's 3 points for a win.
2 points for a win, 3 points for a shutout. So you can get 5 points from a goalie win on a night.
If you equate that out if you just look at the regular season stats based on those stats, goalies have no value. Like, they're low points, very low points when you compare to we did goals are worth 2, assists are worth 1.
Yeah.
And overtime game-winning goals are worth 1 extra point. So goal scorers in our setup are worth way more. If you didn't have that in your mind going into our draft, you were not thinking clearly, because goals are worth a lot more. Guys like Laine, who have 44 goals, that's 88 points in the regular season just with that. And then you add his assists and his overtime goals. He was one of the top guys. So I think that I like the way we did it. I just, in the past, I've done a lot of no goalie leagues because it's tough. If you have 8 teams, if you do one goalie, it's awful because it's like if you get the last pick, you're definitely stuck with a goalie you didn't probably want. Like, absolutely. Because a lot of people are going to take their goalie first just because you want to get the team that you're predicting right away. So I just think it's not a deep enough position in the playoffs to warrant having them. Like, I think that there need to be more to choose from. In the regular season, it makes sense to have 2 or 3 because any team can win on any night. But if you're stuck with the New Jersey goalies because you just had last pick, or it won't be New Jersey, but it would be New Jersey. Like, if the last pick in our league is the New Jersey goalie.
In my case, I picked 5th, and I was stuck with a team that I wasn't very comfortable with too, because you sort of set the trend by taking goalies first, and then everybody thought, shit, I better take the goalies first. So I think if you would have went player, it would have been a little bit easier for me to kind of make my choices afterwards.
Yeah.
But you smashing the goalie market straight away made everybody go, okay, if I don't, I'm not going to get a good goalie team on the way back through. So I better focus on just getting my team goalies. So for me, it made it a bit uncomfortable for me sitting even in the 5th pick because Tampa was gone, Winnipeg was gone, Nashville was gone. I can't remember who was gone after. Let me check. So the first,
I think that.
Yeah, the first 5 picks, Tampa goalie's gone, Nashville goalie's gone, Jets goalie's gone, Boston goalie's gone.
Right off the what I like about it. If you want to know specifically what I don't like about it, is that pretty much every single team in our league has a player we don't like has a thing on their team that you didn't even want to take. And that, I don't think that makes sense. I think that you should maybe 1, but I just think having 0, because if you have 1, there's still going to be the 8th team goalies is still not that good. So
well, the good thing about the 8th team goalie is he does get the best of the back-to-backs. So it's not like he's getting the worst goalies. He's just getting the 2 lower end of the low end. It sort of balances itself out, and that's what I like about it. There is some randomness to it, but at least if you're sitting in that 8th spot, you're getting 2 sort of safe goalies to make the next round. Where if you get the first pick, you're getting one that's fairly safe, but your other one is shit. It's probably the worst of the rest of the goalies that are out there.
Yeah, but mine's not, because, I mean, it's debatable. It's all debatable. It's the thing I don't like.
Random, right? Everything comes down to being random, right? Like New Jersey could end up beating Tampa Bay, and then you're completely screwed. And Columbus could end up beating Washington, or those things do happen. So there is unpredictability about it. But again, what I'm saying is that a guy that picked, like myself, picking 5th, I ended up with Pittsburgh and LA. I'm actually in a better situation than someone who ended up with like Nashville and
New Jersey,
Vegas, or New Jersey, or something along those lines. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think
I hear you. I never like being forced to take a thing I don't want on my team. Like, I have Columbus, I have Tampa Bay, who I love, obviously, my first pick, but then I have Columbus, who I was like, I wanted Anaheim. They went right before me, and there was nothing else that I was like at all interested in. So I was like, I got to take Columbus now because I don't want any of those other teams, and I don't really want Columbus. I predicted Washington tonight to beat Columbus. I think Washington's going to beat them, but I was forced to take.
Well, I predicted Philly beats Pittsburgh, and I've got Pittsburgh goalies in there, and they were a 5th pick, my first round 5th pick. But again, in that situation, you got to take the best odds of that happening. I think Philly beats Pittsburgh, but do I take Philly goalies over Pittsburgh? I would have been laughed out of the draft.
See, so now, based off of this, I'll get right into like how I actually do a fantasy playoff like how I'm thinking, and I think most people do the same thing. You make your bracket. You got to make your bracket first, clearly, and you got to like figure out. You don't got to figure out how many games each team's going to win. How like you don't. You're never going to guess it. You're never going to get it right. Just pick who you think's going to win each series. Do your best prediction, and stack those teams. Like be committed. Don't waver. Don't start taking Columbus players when you don't really think, and oh, he's a good player. I'll just take him. You gotta, the guy who is going to win your league, and it might not be you. You might pick the wrong teams. The guy who will win will stack teams. I
Well,
guarantee.
I'm that way in both. I've basically got in our pool, I've got every Nashville player that you can possibly imagine. I got Forsberg, I've got Turris, I've got Fiala, I've got um, uh, who else do I have from? Yeah, Forsberg in the first round. I ended up with Braden Point in the second. Um, Roman Yossi, Johansson, uh, Turris, Fiala, Hartman. I took Sheary from Pittsburgh because I took their goalies. Toffoli from LA because I have their goalies. My last pick was McDonough.
I'm the same. I have, so like I said, I think Tampa and Winnipeg are going to the finals. So
Yeah.
I have my second pick was Stamkos. My third pick was Ehlers. My next pick was Kyle Connor. My next pick was JT Miller or TJ Miller. I don't know, JT Miller.
Yeah.
My next was Gourde. My next pick was Palat. They're only from those teams.
Yeah.
And all you got to do is make the equation of what's more valuable, games played or skill. And actually, it's games played. If they do go to the finals like you're predicting, it's absolutely games played because it's a lot
16
more
games to maybe 4, right? You just never know. You definitely want to do a games played. That's how I look at it as well. So.
And
some people do use the strategy of trying to get to the second round. And that works too because you're kind of balancing out the games played, I guess. But yeah, you definitely want to stack. Like I said, I'm in 2 playoff pools this year. The one that I just mentioned, I've got mostly Nashville guys, a couple of Tampa, 1 King, and 1 Penguin.
Yeah.
But you have a good chance of having those guys kind of go to the next rounds. But in the other one that I'm in as well, I think I've evenly split. There's 10 guys, 2 goalies. I got Winnipeg goalies and Philly goalies, which I'm okay with because my team I basically got the entire Tampa Bay second line. I got Tyler Johnson. I've got Palat. I've got Point. I've got Kucherov. I've got who else did I grab? I wasn't able to get Gourde, but I got their entire second line of Point, Johnson, and Palat. I've got Kucherov on the first line. And then from Winnipeg, I've got let's check. For Winnipeg on this one, I've got I ended up taking let me check. Sorry. I ended up in this one with the 7th pick. So I got Winnipeg goalies, and then I got Kucherov, and then I got Braden Point, Ehlers, Paul Stastny, Kyle Turris, Tyler Johnson, Palat.
I mean, the real point is it's not about. My advice is not stack Tampa Bay and stack Winnipeg. That's what I thought. But my advice is go all in with whatever team you do want. You could be Pittsburgh. You could be whatever. But you don't have to take the top scoring players available, even on like teams you think are going to get to the second round. You might want to be avoiding them and go for the guys that you think are going to get to the finals and go all in.
Yeah.
Because whether you're right or not, the team that does that, that picks the right teams, is going to win. Absolutely is going to win. There's going to be somebody who picks the right two teams, or one and a half of the right teams. You know, one that gets to the finals and two that get to the conference finals or something.
Sure.
So I suggest that. And my real the thing I was looking at a lot this year is check your scoring system. Is it just points? What is it? And like figure out the numbers, because our league is 2 points for a goal, and 1 point for an assist. That really changes things. It's not a lot of players lose a lot of value. A guy like Backstrom, who gets so many assists, way less value. All the defensemen, way less value. There's very few defensemen who score goals. So they have some value. I'm not saying like a guy like Letang is useless or anything, but they need to like really get a lot of points. Even a guy like I have some weird sleepers, but a guy like Craig Smith on Nashville, who scored 25 goals and like 25 assists. He does it every year now, which seems like a very average ho-hum player. He's way more valuable than every defenseman. Like there's no defenseman who scored more than him on the regular season in that scoring setup. Not one. I don't think anybody had more points than him over. No, I might be wrong on that, but he's like above guys like Carlson and weird guys that you would never expect. Like so like Josie is lower than him on points, which you would never think Josie is a worse player than Smith. But in this setup, so you really got to make sure of that.
I do. I tend to navigate a little bit more towards forwards opposed to defensemen in pools like this as well, just because of the fact that there are a little bit more offensive and they're getting more offensive sort of time, I guess you could say. I tend to kind of lean a little bit more towards forwards as opposed to defensemen in this kind of a setup as well.
Yeah. I think also you need a deep list at the end of your draft. Like the beginning is going to be easy. You're going to know the guys you want at the top. Very like even all the way into like your sixth pick or fifth pick. You're going to know. They're going to be big names still. But when you get later, like we were taking guys at the very end, like my last pick, who I think is a bit of a sleeper, is Donato on Boston, who's playing on the first line a lot with Bergeron and doing well. You got to look at guys who are hot going into the playoffs. Like Donato in his last 10 games is almost 10 points.
Yep.
If that carries over in the playoffs and then Boston go on a run, just like Gensel last year. A perfect example is Gensel last year, who was not a big name at that point. He was doing well, obviously. He was still doing well, but he wasn't like a top pick in fantasy in the playoffs. But he should have been. He was like in the NHL for the playoffs. So you got to watch guys like that who are heating up at the right time. Maybe their role has changed. Maybe their team has changed. Maybe they got traded halfway through the year and they're just starting to heat up. And also guys who are hurt, who are coming back, who might not have had good regular seasons, but they got them healthy for the playoffs. Target those guys. I think I targeted a lot of those guys in our league. How about, do you have any sleeper? Now that we're done our league, we can actually give away some of our sleepers because I mean our picks are in. So I've got a couple sleepers I'd like to mention guys that if you're getting to the end of your playoff pool, guys that are out there that might actually give you a pretty good value. Do you have any too?
Yeah, I've got a couple as well. Yeah, I'll let you go ahead and fire away with yours first.
I won't get too deep into why. I'll just name off some guys. One I already said is Donato in Boston, who I think at the very end is sneaky value. If he keeps the role he's had going in, I think he's good. Guys that are not as deep, Palat is going later than I think he should. I think Palat's a good hockey player, and he's just been hurt, and I think he's back now, and that's when they need him. JT Miller, I'm saying that right? JT Miller.
Yeah, is one that was on my list as well, for sure. Yeah.
Love him. He's like point per game since he's got to Tampa, and he has a great role, and it looks like that's not going to change because he's been a point per game. Why would they mess with it? So he's another one. I like one of the few defensemen I liked as a sleeper was Ryan Ellis, who has been really good in Nashville. He's if you equate his numbers over the full season, he's 55-point defenseman or more. And he's hot right now. So if you're going to take a defenseman late, he's a good defenseman to take late.
Yep.
Kyle Turris, super hot going into the playoffs.
Kyle Turris is a guy that I've got in both of them, I do believe. So yeah, he was on my list.
He's going too late, I think. I think
Uh,
he's just off people's radar because his overall numbers this year are not that great. But
yeah,
when he got to Nashville, he got better. He became a lot better.
yeah. I
So
also think
his stats are bad.
another guy that I'll add from Nashville is Ryan Hartman as well. I think he could be a nice solid sleeper for a guy as well.
I got a few more. I'll just rhyme them off. Derek Brassard in Pittsburgh. He's not been amazing in Pittsburgh, but he's definitely a kind of guy who can get on a run.
Mm-hmm.
And he's one of their still more talented players. Like they've got a lot of guys like Sheary, who I don't know how talented Sheary really is. I think he's more of a skater who can keep up with some of those top end guys, so he picks up points. But I think Brassard actually has some pretty standalone skill, so I think he could get hot.
I think Brian Pittsburgh as well. We can just go team for team. I'll give you one on every team that you list off. I got Brian Rust as well. He's gone really late, and I think he's a decent. He's playing with Crosby, right? I mean, he's going to get his points. So
exactly.
Rust is a guy.
I like very deep. This is very deep. We didn't even have to use him in our league, but Calle Jarnkrok in Nashville, he's not an amazing role, but if you think Nashville are going to do well, which a lot of people do. He's a deep guy that is not getting taken in most leagues, but I think he's got some value.
He's not even He's not even listed as on the starting roster.
That's so crazy. He's been hurt. Getting into the playoffs, so he might not even be healthy.
I would add Mike Fisher to there if you're going really deep as well. Mike Fisher's, I think, was going to put up solid numbers there as well.
Yeah, you never know with him. Fiala, you got Fiala's a guy I really like. I think he's underrated, and I think again, if you like Nashville, he's not a sleeper. He's like he got 30 goals this year, I think.
Yeah,
but
and
he's
Craig
good.
Smith. You mentioned Craig Smith earlier as well.
Yeah, I like Craig Smith. He's underrated.
Yeah,
and just scores goals over and over. Krejci, if you like Boston, there's a couple Boston guys. Krejci and Backes, very late. They score goals. Krejci was on a really good pace this year if he played the whole year.
I brought this guy up to you earlier in this year, and you had mentioned that you never heard of him. But Danton Heinen. He is the future of Boston. He's a really good player, and he's going to be one of those guys that sort of comes in and shows a little bit too. He could be a really late guy as well.
Yeah. I like, depends what you think, but Adam Henrique has been good for Anaheim. He's been actually one of their better players in the second half. You might not think Anaheim's getting through, but I kind of do think Anaheim's getting through. So
yeah, he's like I said, that one's a coin flip for me. Yeah, Kasha's is that who you said?
No, I said Adam.
Oh yeah, I like Kasha as well. He's actually had a really strong year.
Yeah, Kasha is another good one. So it depends who you think. Like, I'm not mentioning any players from teams I don't think. Like, if you went different teams, you're not going to hear me say any sleepers from those teams. I really focused on what I did going into this is I just printed out the 8 teams I thought were going to get to the conference finals, sure. And I just only from those teams. I didn't even look at other rosters. I didn't even. No. The only one that went off my list was Cam Atkinson because he's been super hot going into the playoffs. And if by any chance I also got Columbus as my goaltending, so I may have to take a second one just in case if they do get through. I'll have a lot of value on Columbus. That's it. Like there's other guys, but those are my main guys. I think it's important to make sure you know your league set up and where the points are, how the points are valued.
Yeah.
And then pick off that.
Well, I'm pretty happy with the picks that I've got anyway. So I mean, there's a lot going on with mine. I told you I've got 2 going, and I like my chances in both of them at this point in time. So I think I've got guys from two of the. I've got all guys from 2 of the 3 best teams. So I mean, I'm pretty happy. So.
Yeah. And I mean, we're gonna see how wrong we are probably in about 2 weeks or a week and a half, whenever these series start finishing.
We'll get together for another one of these in a couple of weeks, and before the second round starts, and we'll be able to kind of give a little bit better of where we went wrong or where we went right, I guess.
Yeah, I like that we didn't get too far ahead of ourselves this time because last time I remember we did every single second round and every second. So we just went all the way through. Like, we know everything. We're going to get it all right.
Yeah, no, that's probably not going to happen. So
We're going to come back in a month and a half and be like geniuses who predicted every single thing. It's better to do it one by one. It stings less.
Let's pick up on this in a couple of weeks. Thanks again, Shane. I really appreciate the time you put in, and let's, as we always say, let's try and make them a bit more frequent if we can. And these are fun. I really like it. I could sit and talk for hours. So, I mean,
yeah,
it's getting on to about 11:30 at night here. So we're about 8 hours away from playoff hockey starting. So hopefully everything goes well in your pool. I wish you luck, but just not too much. Enough to just stay in second place right behind me would be great. So I do think that we're going to be the ones kind of battling it out for the next couple of years, going head to head. I think that next year it's going to be us in the for our main league as well, and I think that maybe our playoff pools might be banging heads a little bit as well. So
we'll see. It's all about that second round matchup. You got Nashville players. I got Winnipeg. I mean, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We have to get to the second round first.
That's very true too. Yeah, that's right. But yes, stay on the line with me here a little bit after. I got a couple things that I'll run by you. But thanks everybody for tuning in and watching, and thanks again, Shane, for being part of it. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks.
Don't forget, we're the Hockey Outsiders.
Enjoy playoff hockey. Woo-hoo.
All right, talk to you soon.